Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. Cody Delmendo is here, flying high, riding a parlay, but not flying high with his Illini on Monday. Ryan Herrera live out in Arizona, and our guy Kyle Williams, K_Williams Media, is here as well. I'm Luke Stuckmeyer. We got a lot to talk about. We've got an important game tonight for the Cubs in some ways. We have free agent signings to talk about over the last couple days for the Cubs. We have Ryan's SPF number we want to talk about. We've got a relish room we want to get to. I don't even know what that means, but we're going to talk about a relish room shout out we got on Twitter. And let's start with the Monday vibes real quick, because not only is Madrigal playing tonight, it's 73 degrees in Chicago. Normally after your bracket is busted, you don't feel like this. I feel good today.
Yeah, today's a great day. Obviously, you brought it up. I'm feeling great. I went 13-3 gambling on the NCAA tournament this weekend. It was awesome. Illinois broke my heart, but that's okay. I didn't have much expectations anyway. I'm a broken Illini fan. It's a tale as old as time. But, yes, I love you brought up Madrigal. There were some cool things from the weekend over the spring training games as well.
Brendan Davis hit a home run.
Yeah. Alfonso Rivas hit one too. Thought Justin Steele looked pretty good in his few innings. It was the first time that from my own couch at home, I got to check out like the Cubs beginning of a game and watch a few innings. Admittedly, I didn't watch a full game because March Madness is on.
Right.
I think it's okay to admit that. I don't hate me for not watching a full game, but it was great to just see baseball like we've all been talking about, during the lockout and stuff, just like wanting that. And it was a good weekend. And like you said, 70 degrees. I came in here sweating today because I walked from the train here.
The heat's still on in this building.
Yeah, the walk was a little bit longer than I thought it would be, and you know how it can be cold outside, and then you walk into a room and like it'd be warm. Like I was having that vibe, and I was like, "Oh my God, this needs to stop." So I chug some water,
Like these are the days that you go through the tough Chicago winters for.
Yeah.
Like those,
yeah.
those negative -5 degree days. Like this.
We dream of days like this.
Absolutely. And then baseball's on tonight too.
Yeah, and Ryan's been feeling like this for like 7 days now. Like,
must be nice. He looks like he's back at the beach again.
Playa del Herrera right out there. He's out sitting at the ballpark. He's got sand under his feet. Or is that the infield?
Taking pictures too.
It's the infield. I can't complain though. I can't. It's actually been a little chilly the last couple of days.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure it has been.
Here we go, little chilly.
Yeah.
It's gonna love it. I packed a hoodie with me. Coming to the ballpark. It's a little chilly right now. It's windy.
We should change the locks before he gets back later this week.
Oh my goodness.
So Madrigal makes his debut. Braylon Marquez arrived at the Cubs park after having his second bout of COVID. Wow, that's you don't hear that from too many people yet. Like a second bout of COVID.
I've had COVID twice.
You've had it too, Joey?
Twice.
I sort of expect that from you. You run around in a little bit
Both
of a sketchy
times in
crowd.
Austin, Texas. Yep.
Yeah,
there
it is. You went to Texas. That explains
Deep in
it.
the heart of Texas.
Rampant with COVID down there. Braylon Marquez, that's kind of interesting that he was arriving at camp late, and I think a lot of people, Ryan, were wondering, where is he, right?
Yeah, we knew he wasn't here. We didn't have specifics on why. He finally showed up today, and we got to talk to him. He said, he had COVID, so he had to be quarantined or isolated, however you want to, however the wording is. But he said he was vaccinated, which, he had some symptoms, but obviously didn't hit him too hard. But, and then he was quarantined, isolated, and, he was finally able to make it down here for Cubs camp. But I guess that's kind of where he's been. And kind of, he had it about the same thing pretty much last season. Same kind of timing, COVID. It's the second time he's had it. So, but I'm sure the Cubs are happy to be here. He's I don't know how much he's been able to ramp up because obviously with COVID, he's kind of can't do much. But, the coach, we talked to Rossi, he said he's just going to talk to him, kind of figure out where he's at. They'll probably get him in, just throw in maybe a bullpen here soon. And then, it's probably going to be a long process. He probably won't be ready. He might not be ready for opening day, but, I guess we'll see how these next 2.5, 3-ish weeks go.
Well, and he, you wonder where he factors into this team. Is it a bullpen position? Is it, that you put him back into a starter somewhere? They signed Drew Smiley, who we never really got to see pitch in a Cubs uniform.
Yeah.
That's another name now that comes into the mix over the weekend. And Ryan, it seems like they're just kind of stockpiling names and arms, and like it feels to me like they're stockpiling the Bears tight end list from a few years ago. Like it's just at some point they're going to have 75 starters, 75 relievers, and you're going to go, okay, well, how are they going to pare this down? They don't have there's not like a name that sticks out in that group right now, and that's kind of what they're looking for, right?
Yeah, as far as like starting rotation goes, you probably got your main three, and Stroman, Hendricks, Miley, he's still ramping up. We can talk about that in a little bit, but he's still trying to ramp up. Alec Mills might have, as far as what Ross told us last week, Alec Mills is sort of the plan is to have him be the one of the starters. So if they stick to that 5-man rotation, they got one spot open, and that's Keegan Thompson's pitching right now. Actually, I think he just came out of the game. Justin Steele, Drew Smiley, if he builds up, Daniel Norris could build up. I mean, there's so many different options. But another thing that like Tommy Hotovy and David Ross have been talking about is they know it's going to be tough for pitchers to ramp up and be able to pitch 6-7 innings from the get-go, So they've been talking, they're floating the idea, maybe there's piggyback options. So some of these guys that are on the outside looking in of the rotation when the season starts, they could end up being those multi-inning weapons like Alec Mills has been historically with the Cubs, where, you get your starter, pitches 4 or 5 innings, then you bring in one of these multi-inning guys out of the bullpen, and he can take over, 3-4 innings. Or we saw it last year. One of those Twins games in Minnesota, you had Justin Steele start 5, and Housley came out for and finished it off in 4 himself. So I think you might see a combination of that to start the season. I think that's why they're bringing a lot of these guys that could potentially be starters, but at the same time can work multiple innings out of the bullpen.
Saw Rachel saying Brendan Davis was just hit by a pitch on the knee.
Yeah, our
and
Discord
struggling
was
to get
blowing up about it, actually. I was getting the notifications.
Ooh.
So I'm sitting here listening to Ryan talk, and I'm freaking out a little bit at the same time, admittedly. I kept my cool, though.
I thought you were sweating because it was hot in here. You were sweating because you were watching the chat going over on there.
Yeah. Shout out to Rachel for
keeping us
posted on that.
It's interesting. So they do have a lot of these pitchers. You talked to Wade Miley, right? I mean, that's one of the guys we really haven't
talked a lot
about. I think everybody that I've talked to before in the past is like, hey, that's a great move for the Cubs, getting him off waivers. There's no downside to it, I don't think, but it's just kind of curious where you guys think he fits into this mix.
Well, before Alzolay got hurt, I thought he'd be a solid 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But now he's definitely going to be a 3. Like, he'll probably go after Stroman in the rotation. The one thing I really like about him is that he eats innings and he's effective. He was really good with the Reds, and that's a hitter's ballpark. So, like you said, you're getting him for what, 1 year, $10 million. You just picked him up off waivers, didn't have to get anything for him. Like, I look forward to seeing him pitch against the Reds.
Yeah, for a Cubs rotation that really struggled all of last year. I mean, what's the risk?
Right.
He had a 3.37 ERA last year.
The biggest problem with the Cubs rotation last year was just the fact their starters couldn't go past the 5th inning. And he brings that.
And that's all they're looking for.
Right.
Breathe easy. Rachel says Brendan Davis is up, and he's taking his base. So
Corey, our guy Corey says Brennan's looking fine, but he was about to ask Ryan to go charge the mound.
That would have been fun to see.
So, Ryan, when you talked to Wade Miley, what were your impressions of what he expects going into this season? Can Ryan hear us?
Did we lose?
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi was spotty there for a sec.
It's the waves. It's all the waves. It's the sand. What do you think?
Go ahead and repeat.
I was saying, how does Wade Miley look going into this season? What's his outlook, or what did he express to you?
Yeah, so he's still. We got to talk to him today. He's still, ramping up. He was saying like he didn't, because of the lockout. It kind of messes with the timing, right? Like he didn't know when the lockout was going to end, so he didn't like. You can't start ramping up, then shut yourself back down, then ramp up again, and then who knows what comes after that. So he threw about 30 pitches in a bullpen today. That comes after he threw like 15 pitches a few days ago, maybe like 3 days ago, 4 days ago. But he threw 30 today. He said he kind of felt tired after 20, but he pushed to 30. Yeah, I think especially some of these veterans go a little slower ramping up during spring training regardless. Obviously, this is a short one, so you don't want to go too slow. But he thinks, like, at least what he told us, and he's confident that he'll be good to go that first homestand, like, even if it's not the third game or the fourth game. I guess maybe like one of the last games of the home series, that he'll be able to get in there and get some innings. Again, we've talked about it, players are a lot more optimistic than maybe than they're going to be a lot more optimistic than pessimistic about where they're at. But as far as we know, he thinks he's going to be ready for the season. Whether that's probably not going to be able to throw 6-7 innings to start, but he'll be able to eat up some innings once the season goes. As far as we've been told.
Joey, do we have that some of that sound from Ryan that Wade Miley was talking?
Throwing 30 pitches in a row is like, if you look at it like as a starter, you don't ever do that.
Right.
30 pitches in a row. I mean, I was tired at 20, but I pushed myself. I'm trying to get 3 outs in like 15, 20 pitches.
Right.
But that's a big step. The other day I threw 15 just to get down the slope. That's a big step moving forward. And now I can actually get into like facing like in my mind a hitter, or like going like having like at bats inside my bullpens. Where right now I'm just throwing. I'm just trying to get repetition in my arm. Obviously trying to locate pitches and stuff, but I spun a few breaking balls today. It's the first time I've spun anything in a while, so that felt good. I mean, we're not that far off. I can ramp up pretty.
Isn't that interesting? You don't think about that a guy doesn't normally throw 30 in a row, but he was gassed afterwards. It's like it's interesting to see the way pitchers approach a season, something like that. As just an average fan on the street, you wouldn't be like, well, my God, he's got to build up from 20 to 30 and 40,
It's interesting because, it will be interesting to see how teams play their starters the first couple times through the rotation in April because, they don't want to ramp them up. And we kind of saw last year the injuries from the year before in 2020 with less games. You knew they were going to have to pitch more innings in 2021. I don't think this is going to have a major effect like last year because there were a ton of injuries last year. But, I don't want to say it's going to affect the outcome of the season, but I guess for the Cubs especially, it's not necessarily great because they're going to need guys to give them 5-6 innings consistently if they plan to be competing. So,
and the injuries have already affected the Cubs with in spring training alone, and it's one of those delicate things you have to balance when you talk about this short ramp up to the season. You want your guys ready to be able to go out there and pitch, but you don't want injuries happen. You don't want overuse to happen. So, I think you were going to see more. What did Jed call Braylon Marquez in the fall? Like a pitching weapon? Yeah. I think we're going to see more of those types, especially from the Cubs.
You're 100% right about the ramping up, though. That's why he's talking about the 30 pitches,
Right.
There's the old school. I could see all the old guys sitting around the coffee shop right now. These guys are so soft. Can't even throw 30 pitches after a couple of months off. But it's just that's the way the game has developed. It's become so specific and so detailed, and these athletes have been trained to do one thing so very well that, and the money's so high that you can't afford to risk an arm like that early in spring training just because you want to see it.
And it's not like it's not like he's throwing triple digits or anything. So that says something about a guy like a finesse guy like him. You got to consider the hard throwers and how much that will affect them, because that, to me, that's the thing that this will affect the most, are the guys with the high velo and even your young arms especially, because obviously those are very coveted pieces on every team in the league. But it's like you said, it is interesting to see how even for finesse guys, they have a routine. They have to do a certain thing a certain way to get themselves prepared for the season. Makes a lot of sense.
You can read all of Ryan's stuff if you have a membership at allchgo.com in the members section. And you had a good one about the Seiya Suzuki signing. How are the Cubs looking at this, Ryan? I just kind of summarized the article for us about the way all of this kind of went down and how the Cubs are looking at his signing.
Well, so I guess as far as just what the Cubs kind of look at it, so they want him to be right field, and I think Jed kind of expressed this, that he is comfortable in right field, and he's coming from Japan. He's going to be so uncomfortable in different ways while he gets accustomed to playing in the U.S. that making him play in a position that he doesn't like letting him play in a position he feels most comfortable is just one way to kind of take that part off his mind. Like, he doesn't have to worry about that. So they see him in right field. Jason Hayward's in center. He's been taking outfield during batting practice in center field. So that's I don't know that Jason Hayward's the everyday opening day starting center fielder, but I think that's the plan, is to kind of shift him when Suzuki's in the lineup. And he's taken live BP a few times. The day he got here Friday, he wanted to take BP, so he did that. Hit a couple of home runs during BP. So that was, and it's like the swing looks so effortless, and it's just like flying out of the ballpark, which is like, man, like he's got some power. And just the way it played out, they had interest in him from like years ago, is what they said. Like they've been kind of building that interest, researching him, and then when he got they knew he was going to get posted at some time. And then when he finally did get posted, I think it was like 9 or 10 days before the lockout started. So they had to very quickly get a meeting set up, very quickly, get a presentation in, and then lockout hits, 99 days, can't talk to him. Then finally, when the lockout ends, they get back in contact right away. They get a meeting set up, as was reported, and as they said Monday night, a week ago, last Monday, they get a meeting set up somewhere in LA at I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Hayama sounds right. A restaurant in LA. Jed, Tom Ricketts, Rossi, they go up there. Suzuki's camp is there. They kind of get it done, or they kind of talk about it there. And then Jed and them fly back, and they give him a call as soon as they fly back. Suzuki's agent, Joel Wolf, they let him know, like, hey, this is our offer. We're ready to make a deal. Let's make this thing happen. And then, Suzuki had to go to Chicago. He wanted to check out Chicago, wanted to see Wrigley Field, make sure it's the place to go. And then he comes back, and I want to say it was Thursday night is when they officially signed the contract. And then Friday, that's the timeline, is like, you get that first 10 days, then you go 99 days, no contact, and then you go like a week into the lockout ending, that Suzuki's he's a Chicago Cub. And so that that was really cool. I mean, that Friday was just insane around here. But a lot of attention for Suzuki, and rightfully so. He's a great player out of Japan, but Cubs are bringing same thing they're doing with Miley and a few other guys. They're just bringing into camp, that they're bringing him along not slow, but bringing him along, making sure you're talking to him, seeing how you're feeling, not going into the games just yet, but making sure you're getting your workouts in during the day so that you're ready to go once they decide that Suzuki's ready to play.
Yeah, they wanted to show him, where the Ron Santos statue used to be, and this is no, I'm kidding. He gets to see Wrigley Field, but not the way he's going to experience Wrigley Field. That's kind of,
Yeah. But even like as someone who walks around the neighborhood a lot, since I'm 2 miles south of it, or north of it, I mean, even just being around the neighborhood, there's a vibe or a feeling about it. So as someone who does it all the time, I'm assuming that effect hit him pretty big and probably played a part. I mean, let's be real. Wrigley Field attracts people to want to come play for the Cubs.
It's not like walking into another ballpark.
Right.
Even with the ivy not up, it's not like walking into any other major league park.
Right.
Even if you've never been to those other major league parks and you're coming from Japan and you walk into that, that there is a different feel. It's almost a different, it's like a mixture of eras in one ballpark, which is unique to that ballpark too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like summertime Chicago, when Wrigley Field is at 100% capacity and everybody's going to different restaurants, you're just walking in the area, is just one of one.
Right.
Yep, I agree. Hey, we do want to let Ryan run because I know he's waiting on. We had a code word set up, which was snuffleupagus, if his player interview had happened during the live interview. And then, Rachel, our CHGO fam in London, is on the chat telling us, Brendan Davis did get subbed for a pinch runner. He's coming out of the game. So Ryan's going to be busy out there. He's going to have a lot to do. He's got another article coming at allchgo.com. So snuffleupagus. Ryan, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, we'll catch you later, guys.
So we had to make sure he got out of here because I don't want him to miss if Brendan Davis starts talking or Keegan Thompson or whoever it might be.
Here's the hoping that's just precautionary.
Yeah, agreed.
That's what my defense mechanism is telling me to think. That would not be great if that's a thing.
If you were PointsBet, where would you set the odds on Brendan Davis just taking tomorrow off? Just to be safe. Why don't you just rest the knee 24 hours?
Perhaps minus 1,000. Perhaps.
Give yourself a little ice, and we'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah, if they, if you wanted to actually bet on that, again, you should head out over to PointsBet, and I'm sure they would. If they wanted to put that bet up, they could. But PointsBet is the best way to support CHGO, and if you download the PointsBet app and use the code CHGO when you sign up, you can get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, a lot of the content we've just been talking about with Ryan and his Suzuki article. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker as well. Hashtag dope merch. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better, introducing PointsBet's new feature, Live College Basketball Same-Game Parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. If you want more, you can also boost your live same-game parlays. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And now, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. Plus, during PointsBet Match Madness, all users can earn up to $100 in free bets. During each round, just place a $50 pregame wager and get a free $20 live bet to be used for that round. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
I saw our guy Mike Dubs is ready to fly to Arizona and fight the pitcher who just hit Brendan Davis. Now, we don't encourage that.
I encourage it for Mike Dubs.
We don't encourage it here at CHGO, but we do encourage podcasts. We encourage live podcasts every day on every team, post-game shows after every game, pre-game shows, premium written content for the members at allchgo.com, which, of course, Ryan is working on, and we've had a lot of contributions there as well. That's where you slide in and you check out the dope merch. You go around the corner and you go, whoa, dope merch here too. Let me check this out. And you get a free shirt when you become a member, the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge. So we don't encourage flying there to fight anybody, but if you want to show up and show a little intimidation, we're okay with that,
Fair.
Fair.
Just a little bit.
I see.
I have faith in Dubs. He's a good dude.
Dubs will be all right. I see Brian is joining in live for the first time, so thanks for joining in on YouTube, potentially, or the Twitter feed. YouTube's where you'll see the best, highest quality, and you can subscribe there and make sure you don't miss those, and make sure you give us the likes and the 5-star reviews.
Right.
Yeah, if you're not watching on YouTube, get on YouTube so that we can see your comments. If you're commenting on Twitter, we can't see those. So if you're watching on Twitter, come over to the YouTube page.
Correct.
Good point.
Excellent point, Joey.
Thanks, guys.
So, we're waiting to see if there's any update. Maybe there'll be one before the end of the podcast on Brendan Davis. I would guess they're just going to say it's sore. We'll take a look at it tomorrow and see how he feels when he gets to the ballpark. That's just a guess. I do want to start this segment, though, with something that I'm getting a little concerned about. I've said once they didn't re-sign a lot of the guys, whether it was Bryant, Baez, Rizzo, Castellanos, any of the guys that didn't come back, please re-sign Wilson Contreras. He means too much to this team to just go and get something for. Like,
Right.
MLB Network just ranked the top 10 catchers in baseball. He's number 4. And I could argue he's higher than that. You know?
Yeah.
They've got Yasmani Grandal number 2. I'll put him against Yasmani Grandal any day. And I don't understand what's going on here. Now, he had Wilson. I don't know the context of this. I just know that this is a quote from Bruce Levine, who did an interview with Wilson Contreras recently, and Wilson got so emotional that he had to, according to Bruce's article, step away and say, hold on a second, I need to gather myself. We know he's a passionate guy. I don't like the tone of the way this is going, just the tense of it, any of it, okay? So Wilson Contreras says, this is something that is really tough for me. Personally, the relationships I have with the team, players, and fans, leaving will be something that will be really tough to take. This is something very emotional for me, knowing all that I've had to go through to get to this point. It's going to be really tough and very emotional. That almost sounds like a guy who thinks it's more likely that he's gone than that he would be re-signed. Now, I understand why he'd think that. There's no discussions right now about extending him. And he's probably hearing rumors of, hey, dude, you might not be here. Are you going to be? His friends are probably calling him. Are you going to be at Wrigley this year? Are you going to be in Chicago? That's not the way you want a guy that is the heartbeat of your team to feel going into a season where you're trying to build the platform, the foundation for what you're trying to do the next 5, 6, 7 years. That's not the way I want him to feel going into this year. Nothing but question marks around him, emotional, trying to figure out how he might have to say goodbye. Again, context is a big part of this, and I'm sure it's part of it, but he's an emotional guy, and I worry that this is the stuff he's going to be worrying about going into a season instead of having to really worry about how do I give the best version of Wilson Contreras every single day. It bothers me that this is how he feels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but if they do not get this situation fixed, then basically Jed, Tom, and everyone else in the front office straight up lied to our faces after the trade deadline last year. Like, straight up lied to us, because Tom went on Marquee, straight up said, we plan on competing next year. If you trade Wilson Contreras, and I don't even care if you get an MLB-ready player like in the return, that's not gonna cut it. Like, I don't care who it is. You're not gonna compete. Unless you're getting JT Real Muto. Do the Phillies and the Cubs want to flip-flop catchers for no freaking reason? That would be a slap in the face to the fans who have been trying to find a reason to justify their actions since the trade deadline from last year. And that's me. So, like, they would be slapping me straight in the face if they were to not find a way to get an extension and trade him, like these rumors that have kind of came out today with the Yankees and the Padres. That's really, like, that's the best way I can say it without yelling a lot more.
You can't handle the truth.
You know what the truth? That is the truth, though. You're not trading a top 5 catcher in baseball in his prime and saying we're competing this year.
Exactly.
So if that's happening behind closed doors, I think Cubs fans would say, let's stop that train of thought and let's go back to building this team around Wilson Contreras, around Suzuki, around Stroman, around Brennan Davis, and all the young players you have on Nico Horner, whoever it might be. I do think it would be the wrong message to send.
Yeah, like, if you guys remember, after the trade deadline when the core was dismantled, Wilson Contreras was the one who assumed that leadership role. He was outwardly saying, I want to be on the next great Cubs team. He's passionate. He is one of the best catchers in baseball. He's improved his defense. Why is that a player that is not re-signed? I don't know. But it's one of those puzzling things that you're trading one of your better players, and they've gone on record saying that this isn't a rebuild. This isn't a tear down. But their actions – it's just not adding up. When you sign Stroman, you sign Suzuki, and now you're talking about trading Contreras, especially with your pitching staff.
Rizzo and Contreras, both on the Yankees, would be more than that guy could handle.
Yes. Oh, my God.
The heart, hustle, and muscle of the Cubs, all on one team, and it's the Yankees.
I don't even want to think about
Cody's
that.
Cody's going to dry heave before we finish the podcast.
It just would not make any sense. No sense at all. And with all the people – like, you know how many, you don't know because I haven't told you, but the amount of people who have told me that their name has came up for season tickets after being on the list for so long, and like not even just a few people, but a long list of people. It's because people are leaving because they don't trust the organization right now. If they were to trade Wilson Contreras after all this turmoil post trade deadline last year, and then yes, they spent some in this offseason. I will give them credit for doing that.
But that reverses it.
Right, exactly. If you trade Contreras after doing all that, you honestly, then I can just yell about the Cubs being like the Rockies. Like the Rockies signing Chris Bryant didn't make any sense. If you're going to sign Suzuki and sign someone like Marcus Stroman, it doesn't make any sense to trade Wilson Contreras. If you plan on competing in 2022 and being ready to actually make a playoff run for sure in 2023, like,
you see what rumors do to us? They get the blood boiling.
Yes, I'm just like
They get the blood boiling.
It really just doesn't make any sense. It is worth being upset about if you want to take what those quotes are to heart. He's saying that stuff because, in a way, to me, it's like him saying all that stuff to get their attention, to be like, "Hey, I want to be here." Like I'm being this emotional about this for this guy who part-time works for Marquee. Yeah. Like, come talk to me. Let's figure something out.
And this has nothing to do with Yan Gomes, who you haven't seen yet in a Cubs uniform, because the Yan Gomes and Wilson Contreras together works for the Cubs. That just gives them flexibility to save Contreras' legs. They can put him at first. They can DH him.
His offensive numbers going to improve.
You don't have to worry about that anymore. And then you have a backup who is a very good major league catcher.
Right.
I don't know if you want to see Yan Gomes play every game, all but like 10 games for the Cubs. You don't want that.
And then if they were,
and that's that's nothing against him.
If they were to do that, you just gave me another reason. Like, you signed Yan Gomes to give Wilson Contreras depth and time to rest and stuff, because last year the Cubs had like 7 backup catchers and like all 7 of them failed.
Robinson Chirinos.
Well, okay, Robinson Chirinos was fine at the very end, whatever. But you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, now you bring in a guy who's established himself as a solid backup catcher. Like, why? Like, it again doesn't make any sense. So I'm done yelling.
Wilson signed with the Cubs when he was 17. That is a baby. That's a kid.
Right.
He's changed positions for them. He's learned how to frame pitches better. He's been a key piece of a World Series championship with them. This is why he became a first-time All-Star with the Cubs. He broke into the majors with the Cubs. That's why this is so personal to him as well, and I understand it.
Yeah.
So hopefully what we're talking about is just a rumor. It was we're listening to the Yankees, we're listening to the Padres a little bit, and when this all gets done, we'll talk extension with Wilson once the season gets started. And Luke, I don't know if that's what's happening, but that's what you're hoping for.
And Luke, just one thing to mention. You mentioned the tone of his voice. And, I mean, when you're Wilson Contreras, imagine you're Wilson Contreras, and you've seen what's happened over the past year and a half. Schwarber, Almora was DFA, the core was traded. Only one guy, Kyle Hendricks, has signed an extension. If you're Contreras and these talks haven't happened now, what faith do you have that they are going to happen?
Right. And I hold out some sort of hope that the main reason that it hasn't is because of the lockout. And with the lockout, the Cubs and every other team in the league have had to, I guess, sign all these guys as fast as possible to put a team together. So I want to have some faith, just a little bit of faith that they're going to get him in a room and just get this done before this season starts.
I think, again, we talked about context. I don't want to blow it up out of proportion, but I think Cubs fans are going to get riled up by this article, and I understand why they're going to be riled up by this article. And, you can say what you want about this isn't fully in context. We don't know exactly where it came from. However, a guy doesn't walk away from his locker and say, I need a second to gather myself unless this is really, really bothering him emotionally, unless it's really at the top of his mind. If it's just a ho-hum question about, so what do you think that, I heard the Padres and Yankees, if it doesn't mean anything to him, he's just going to answer the question.
Right.
But Wilson Contreras isn't that guy. You ask him a question, and if it hits him in the heart, he's going to take it to the heart, and he's going to give you the answer that's inside of him, not just some canned answer that, you might get from another player. So that's what, again, I know this could be taken out of context, this quote, but when you look at it and you see the reaction and a player walks away and he tells you multiple times that it's emotional and he's speaking in a way as if it's almost happened already, that's why Cubs fans should be worried about this and probably are worried about this.
Yeah.
Fair. Let's hope it's all about nothing.
Yes,
just for Cody's sake.
For my sake, everyone in the chat's sake, because our comments have been blowing up since this discussion started. Joey, do you want to put some up there we can read?
Clark says maybe Wilson is over it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think so. I think if the Cubs came to him today and said, let's talk extension, I think he'd be very interested. He's been adamant about trying to be here long-term and wanting to be the leader, as you mentioned, Kyle. He wants to be the leader for this Cubs team. He wants to be there for these guys. And I think I said it Friday when I would mention he's like Joakim Noah to me.
Yeah. And, there's something about having that catcher be part of your organization long-term. I hate using Yadi Molina as an example because I loathe him. But,
just call him YM.
There's a reason that Cardinal fans think this guy's the greatest catcher of all time. And in a large portion of it is because he's been there forever. Because I think he's a little overrated, I think Wilson Contreras, by the end of his career, he's at least going to be a better offensive player than him. I would just love to see him do that in Chicago, man. That would mean a lot to me. I feel, and again, it would put if they get this extension done with him, it would put some faith back in the organization from majority of the fan base. Why the Cubs wouldn't be interested in that, I don't know, because they have just been getting destroyed online, in their emails probably. I'm sure Tom has stopped reading them.
It's the type of rumor that sets a fan base ablaze. It really is. And Ferris is saying on there, and he makes a great point, that he's also great with the kids at the ballpark. I know that's not a huge reason to keep a guy on a team, but not only is he a really good player and he's passionate about the team and he's passionate about the city, he is good with kids at the ballpark. And I've seen it firsthand too, some really special stories about relationships that he has with Cubs fans.
I was in the left field bleachers last year in June, and he was, it was pregame obviously, and he was just out there, warming up, but having conversations with people, whether it was, pointing out signs or, playing catch with the kids in left field, that kind of stuff. Some people might not look at that as any kind of big deal, but the kids do. And again, it kind of shows his personality. It shows his love for the Cubs and the fans. And you just don't see a lot of that.
No.
You don't see that from a lot of players. And
what shirt could we make? I feel like we need some dope merch for this. Is it hashtag sign Wilson, hashtag save Wilson, hashtag keep Wilson?
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Okay, Joey. You be the jerk.
I love Wilson.
Yes.
And I would be, I'd be extremely happy if the Cubs brought him back. But to say that they shouldn't be fielding offers, listening if teams are calling, especially teams like the Yankees and the Padres that are in win now mode, probably would be willing to pay a little more, what's the phrase? pennies on the dollar for Wilson to complete, because that's a big part of it. The Yankees have needed a defensive catcher for a long time. The Cubs are in a position where they have to be listening. Wilson, if you look at that, he's posted the lowest 2 OPSs of his career the last 2 years. It's not, and I think what shout out Rachel again, what she said earlier makes sense. I think the Cubs might be looking at it let's see what Wilson gives us at the first half of this season, and let's go from there right now. But as much as I love Wilson, I love the 2016 team, I don't want them to do something because it's emotionally the decision. They got to do what's best for the team.
That is fair, Joey. I will just say this. We're about to morph into another conversation about free agents that just signed. And when I look at a list of 5, 6, 7, 8 guys on there where I say, well, they could have done that. Well, they probably could have done that. Well, that deal was somewhat – a lot of guys took reasonable deals in the last week where you thought, even on a 2-year deal or a 2-year extension, you go, well, that's not mortgaging the team. I agree with the Cubs on almost any player need to listen. I mean, you're crazy not to listen about. I just don't know what the Yankees or Padres could really give back that would make me say, yeah, top 5 catcher in his prime, heart of the team, seems like it's worth risking it on prospects. I mean, what else are they going to offer you other than top prospects, which are, you know what? Prospects, because they're not in the majors yet. You don't know. Wilson Contreras wasn't a top prospect and then burst onto the scene.
Right. Joey mentions the lowest OPSs of his career the last 2 years. Well, 2020, that's 60 games. I'll take that with a grain of salt. Last year, sure. But I feel like a lot of it is, in recent years, he's led the league in innings caught.
Yes, that's why Yan Gomes should help.
And yes, and that's why you go sign a guy like Yan Gomes. That's why, honestly, the worst part about the Yu Darvish trade, if you want to look back and already hate it, is Victor Caratini being part of that trade too. When he was here, he helped take some pressure off Contreras. And maybe we didn't notice it at first, but we definitely saw it last year. So yeah. I think I still don't think we've seen the best of Contreras yet.
And I think the Yan Gomes signing allows you to do what's best for Wilson, because I think he is one of those guys, if David Ross says you have the day off, that Wilson's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Even if he's totally gassed, having catch 25 straight games, he'll be like, no, I'm playing. But you almost have to take that decision out of his hands and say, you know what, you're going to DH today. You're just going to pinch hit today. You're going to play a little first base today. You know what, take a day off, then we have a built-in day off after that. So we're going to give you a couple days. And Yan Gomes allows you to do a lot of those things that should make him go back to the numbers of 2016. And I know what Joey's saying.
17 and 18 too. Good years those.
If I thought that Wilson was asking for a 10-year deal, I would feel differently about this.
Sure.
But having seen these deals that have been signed in the last week, his agent would have to look at it and say, all right, let's make and talk about reasonable offers here. What can we do to make sure my guy wants to be here? Why wouldn't you want him to be here? Let's get it done. So let's leave it at that. That's where I hope it goes between the beginning of the season and the All-Star break, is that they sit down and come together with a reasonable decision. However, let's talk about woulda, coulda, shoulda, because there were some names that went out there and you thought, well, I like what the Cubs did with Suzuki and Stroman. They've added Miley, and then they added 35 other players that will slowly maybe make the team or make the depth of the team better. Correa is the one we talked about on Friday ad nauseum and over the last couple of weeks. I don't know how close or if they were even in the discussions after the lockout, but 3 years, $105 million. Let's just look at this list, and you can add anybody else you want to. If it hurts you as a Cubs fan, where shoulda, coulda, or woulda, where would you go on this list? For me, the Castellanos deal is reasonable if you're looking at a DH. Schwarber at $79 million. Again, a lot of these deals are more about the money than they are the years, which is what would have scared me if I was Jed Hoyer. I would have said, I don't want to give out super long-term deals. So maybe Trevor Story at 140 is a little scary, knowing that he played for the Rockies and maybe his numbers are inflated. But Carlos Correa for $35 million, That's an interesting deal.
With an opt-out
That's why it's interesting.
after the first year.
You can pay him $35 million this year, and you're in a division where the Reds don't care, clearly. The Pirates don't care, clearly. You're competing with the Brewers and the Cardinals to make the postseason, and once you get there, frankly, anything can happen, or you could add at the All-Star break, or you could add at the deadline. $35 million. And the risk for him is, well, if he gets hurt, okay, then he says, well, then I'm coming back one more year. Okay, so now you've invested $70 million into a guy still in the prime of his game. And at that point, that second season, now you're starting to hope to compete. They may not be saying they're a playoff team this year, but that following year, that is what they're starting to target. That turnaround for this team, the retool, should be ready a year from now. You should start to see that. And having Carlos Correa playing short for $35 million doesn't push you over the luxury tax. Yeah. And it still puts you in there. That type of deal is the type of deal the Cubs, I think, can be in on, maybe should have been in on this year, because I can't imagine why Carlos Correa would say to the Cubs, well, the Twins are offering me the same deal. I'm going to go to Minnesota. Right. I think that's extremely unlikely.
Yeah.
So I see that deal, and I think well, that's the woulda, coulda, shoulda maybe.
Right.
That they could have had Correa for that amount and for very low risk other than financially for one season or two seasons.
Luke, that's if I'm a Cubs fan, that's where I have the most questions about the Correa when you see that he signed for essentially what's a 1-year deal for $35 million. And Patrick Mooney of The Athletic reported that the Cubs didn't make a former offer to Carlos Correa. And that's the type of deals where you're not even making an offer to a shortstop who's coming off of arguably his best season, coming off of a Gold Glove, a Platinum Glove, especially when you have a very you don't have a lot of high velocity guys in the rotation. Having that defensive shortstop who also had his most home runs since I believe 2017 this past year, that would help offensively and defensively. And that's just where I didn't understand how you don't even give him a formal offer.
Well, so do you think, Kyle, they were caught off guard when they saw that deal signed just like everybody else? Do you think that they were like, oh, man, well, if I'd have known he was going to take an opt-out after year one, year two, and we could have just paid him really for 2 years, and if he's great, then, wow, great, we signed him for a multi-year deal.
I think baseball was probably shocked at how reasonable and short that deal was because a lot of the talks were, honestly, they were more similar to in terms of length to the Chris Bryant contract. Everyone thought that Correa was going to go for this 10-year, multi-year locked-in contract, and for him to only go for was essentially 1 or 2 years. I think everybody was kind of caught off guard. I don't know. I haven't seen any reports on what happened in between those talks from before the lockout and after the lockout, but they have to be surprised.
We might see more of this in baseball.
I think Boris being his agent and like his new agent too, right? Because like he switched to Boris right after the season, right? I think that has some play into why he ended up taking a deal like this, and then also because he's probably telling Boris, "I just want to go play. Let's get this done, and we can come back, and maybe the market will be better for me next offseason."
Yeah.
I think and you already kind of pointed, I think the most disappointing part about about not getting Correa or just the Correa thing in general is that the Cubs didn't even put an offer down. After all these rumors, these quote-unquote discussions, like I have to sit here and apologize to all the people who were negative and were like, the Cubs are never talking to him. Like, I hate that I have to admit that I believed. I'm sorry that I was optimistic about it. All of you negative Nancys, congratulations. But they are right. Like the Cubs, they never and that's how bad it is right now in the Cubs fan base. Like no one believes that the Cubs are doing what they say they're going to do. And that, I'm with you now on that, at least on that standpoint. Like the fact that they didn't even put an offer out there. Like even the White Sox did more when it came to Machado. They at least put an offer out there.
Yeah, but frankly, on the other side of town can't be too happy about the Correa deal either because he's in their division.
For sure.
And $35 million for them for next season in the prime of their window. I'm sick to my stomach if I'm a Sox fan because, wow, if you could have had him for 2 years and he can opt out after one, you still might have okay, fine, he opts out. maybe he doesn't opt out for the second year. Now you got him 2 years of his prime for $70 million during the peak of your window. So I think a lot of teams may look at that and say, rethink how they're approaching some of these free agents in the future after this collective bargaining agreement. Like, maybe there's different ways we can do this that we didn't think players in their prime would consider. And I understand it for Correa too, because he can get his $70 million, leave, and still go get a massive contract from somebody that will make him very, very wealthy, but he'll have $70 million in his pocket to make him feel real comfortable about it too. Now, he may not get a chance at winning for 2 years or 1 year, but that decision is now up to him. It puts the power in his hands now because he can leave whatever he wants. Now, we've mentioned before the Cubs need some pitching, we believe. And obviously, Alzolay added that. Before all of this, way before all of this, was Robbie Ray, 5 years, 115 we put on there. And that's another deal that had the opt-out after 3 years. So again, it's $115 million, but you're not investing as much as that if there's an opt-out involved. It's maybe not quite as dangerous as it would look on there. Listen, if you're a Cubs fan, you should be encouraged about what happened last week. I don't say that's, I mean, I believe that as someone who's covered the team for a long time. Suzuki is a signing with a lot of upside, and that's a decision clearly, as Ryan was telling us, that they've been thinking about for a while. Stroman appears to be a great signing. Another short-term deal that's not like super long-term, but he was brought here to be a guy who's going to pitch in high-leverage games, in playoff-type games. And so that tells you it's less than a 3-year window. If he's going to pitch in big games, it's less than a 3-year window. So again, when I look at Correa, when I look at Robbie Ray, 5 years, 3-year opt-out, I say to myself, what, a couple of those deals really woulda, coulda, shoulda fit into this Cubs roster. I know you're trying to leave flexibility, and maybe Wilson Contreras' extension plays into this. But when you put those two stories together and you say they may not re-sign Wilson Contreras and they might trade him, then I take a step back and say, well,
that's disappointing.
That would be as disappointing as the other two stories were encouraging for Cubs fans, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, again, it would go back to the Rocky signing Chris Bryant not making any sense. You mentioned Robbie Ray, a few other pitchers that were signed before the lockout that I thought the Cubs at least should have been in on. Kevin Gausman, who went to the Blue Jays for 5 for 110.
I like that deal too.
Jose Barrios with the Blue Jays as well, 7 years, 131. And then I guess these two would be, I don't want to call them flyers because one of them got a multi-year deal, but considering the situation the Cubs were in, I wouldn't have been upset with the idea, but Noah Syndergaard, he got 1 year, $21 million from the Angels. I know Syndergaard sat out like all of last year because of injuries.
Yeah, but that's
$21 million's a lot of money for 1 year, but if he's healthy, he can be one of the best pitchers in the game.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, yes.
Right.
We've seen it.
I remember before the lockout, there was a lot of talk about Steven Matz. He ended up going to the Cardinals, 4 years, $44 million. Kind of reminds me a lot of the Rodon signing with the Giants. Again, it wouldn't have opened eyes. It just would have been a nice addition to the rotation with Stroman. You add that with Miley as well, and you're looking at the rotation, you're thinking, not too bad. Not that I hate the rotation now, but like there's more proven guys there to go with Miley and Hendricks and Stroman. So that is, to me, because I've been screaming this all offseason, is that the Cubs needed more pitching. As much as I would have liked to have Correa too, I thought they needed more pitching. And again, Stroman's great, and Miley's, he landed in your lap, and we got a lot of guys coming up on the farm, Braylon Marquez, a bunch of other dudes. Like, we got some guys coming, but we don't know when they're coming. So if you really wanted to win, or at least be competitive in this division in 2022, I feel like one of those guys that I just said would have been nice to go with Stroman.
Agreed. Every once in a while, you got to be able to roll the dice a little bit, take a little gamble, put a little money on it. And in fact, if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is download the PointsBet app. Use the code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you get a free CHGO membership. That unlocks all of our web content. You even get a free t-shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. Any questions? Email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. In case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now, register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Reading problem, call Luke. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right. I was rushing because I really want to get to this. I don't want to run out of time because the relish room was brought to our attention. We've been doing the bracket of our sweet and savory 16 because of March Madness going on, and we were getting to our final four, which was the Wiener Circle was in there against Do Right Donuts, and Wiener Circle says, well, they tweet out to us. Look at, they're like, sup, come to the relish room. We'll feed you. What's that mean?
Come record some shit in our relish room.
What's the relish room? What does that mean? I'm excited about it, but I don't know what it means.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I have no idea.
I'm ready.
We've been to the Wiener Circle. I've never seen a relish room.
I've never been, admittedly.
I mean, it sounds exciting. Is that their version of the green room? Because Chicago relish is like, sort of that neon green. You think that's what they're talking about?
I think that's what they're getting at.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, it's very exciting. All right, so we want to get to the results.
Wiener Circle, we are in, by the way. No, we
are.
We are.
Wiener Circle, we're all in.
I'll come down.
But if you guys win, we're not gonna cut any corners with the poll here.
If they win, but they did win a key matchup, which I was, looking at this matchup, I thought, wow, this is heavyweights. This is Muhammad Ali. This is like the prime matchup here. This is Holyfield versus Tyson. And you get Do Right Donuts and the hot dog stand of hot dog stands in Chicago in the Wiener Circle. And, I can't believe it. It's moving on.
Yeah.
Wiener Circle's moving on. So the relish room is still an opportunity. Come here, Lawrence. Show the people. Is that a Wiener Circle shirt? Look at that. Wiener Circle. Well, you got to turn towards the camera a little bit. Very nice.
What a moment we were having here in this.
Yep.
Here in this
Who said we didn't have any hot dogs here? Very nice. So, we're this close to being in the relish room.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it all day. How are we going to get to the relish room? We're this close to being in the relish room.
So are we asking everyone to go vote for Wiener Circle?
No, we're not doing that.
We're not?
We are not. We want a fair.
I'm not against an illegal.
I think Corey would be really upset about that. He's chiming in right now saying voters got it right with the hot dog. We were having this conversation after the show on Friday. Corey is very passionate about the hot dogs at Wrigley. Rightfully so, but
integrity of the election.
Seeking out the correct hot dog vendors with the onions and grilled and there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, ketchup can't be put on it if you're doing it. If you have any idea what you're doing, but we don't want to influence. We don't want to spike the vote or anything, but we do want to go to the relish room.
He did just say, though, in the comments, but Wiener Circle has hot dogs.
They sure do. I love the char dog there, huh?
Yeah. I've heard it's great. Again, I've never been, but they are a great follow on Twitter. They are hilarious.
They're very good. Their sign outside is always.
Yes. I love the Aaron Rodgers ones.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers ones.
I own you. Signs.
Yes.
They so
are
good.
Chef's kiss, man.
So where are we at with the where are we at with the bracket? We're down to the championship.
Yeah.
So tonight will be the final poll, and we are down to the hot dog at the ballpark, the Vienna beef versus the chocolate shake at the Wiener Circle, which you could combine also with a char dog.
Right.
Wow.
This is the Don Dada of polls.
I'm going to tell you, I went into the tournament thinking I was taking do-right all the way to the end because I love a do-right
I was
donut.
high on the pretzel. And
you were on the pretzel.
Do-right.
But all of a sudden, the Wiener Circle chocolate shake started building steam. The chocolate shake got a lot of buzz going around here. Exactly. And then all of a sudden, the invite to the relish room. I feel like no matter what happens, we need to go to the relish room.
I want people It's if you know about the chocolate shake at Wiener Circle.
Well, yeah. I mean, everything
If you
there is
know,
spectacular.
You know.
Yeah,
Like, that's
everything's-
all I can say.
It's a great place. So we will put that out on Twitter. The poll will be there. You can only vote once because I've tried to vote more than once.
He created 10
multiple
burner
times.
accounts.
Yeah, I didn't think about the burner account. That's an idea. So
You just gave him the idea.
you can only vote once. We're going to have the results tomorrow. Again, we're going to hold the Wiener Circle to this. If they win, we're doing a show from the relish room, and they're going to feed us. I don't know when that'll be, but we got a whole season to figure it out.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
If it doesn't,
we will hold them to it.
if they don't win, then we're going to have Vienna beef hot dogs at the ballpark, which is
guess it's
also
a win-win.
Is
Yeah,
also it's a win-win for us. So I'm looking forward to that. So Wiener Circle, as you say, sup, Wiener Circle. We'll find out what happens tomorrow as the sweet and savory comes to our championship ending. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. We will see you Tuesday, not from the relish room, but maybe soon. Go Cubs, go.